Hey there, it's me, Agua. Welcome. So, yeah, I'm I don't think I did this one. Well, maybe I did, or yesterday. But, uh, yeah, I'd like to start off all of my streams like this. I can actually fly around, you know. But, yeah, welcome. When I was setting up everything, I just happened to see a video by Jaden Animation. And it was for their 10-year anniversary being a channel, and it just makes you think how them doing. And we'll get to the video in a second, but it makes me think. They're already 10 years in, a full decade, which is very awesome. Claps for them, and that's excellent. And I'm literally day 18. And like, if that's 3,650 days, right? And I'm on day 18. And this isn't a, doomer thing. It's actually quite the opposite. And it's quite interesting seeing, you know, how they go about, talking about it and seeing beyond what they want to do from YouTube. And we'll actually get to it. And actually, before I go more into this, I'm actually quite excited because I made. Hold up. Do this. We can then do this. It is ye. It is me. Yep. I made this little thing. I essentially just looked at how other people react to videos and try to give it a shot myself. Oh, great. There's that. Well, we'll fix it later. That's why I put a background. But anyway, the whole point is that we'll probably watch a bit of this. I mean, but you know what? Let's hear it from the horse's mouth. Here we go.
As of now, Jaden Animations is officially 10 years old. Yes, I know I technically made the channel in February, but shut up, I don't count that. On July 23rd, 2014, I uploaded my first ever animation to YouTube.
Hey everyone, my name is Jaden.
Alright, that's enough, you get the point. It's kind of old news that a lot of content creators have started retiring, especially after.
And so to her point, the yeah, it's everyone. Matt has gone. PewDiePie has gone. A bunch of all of these older people, older YouTubers are gone, and that was one of the things that I was thinking about. 10 years. She goes on to be talking about later on around here, around like around here. I was like, oh my god, we're retiring eventually, but you know 10 years from now, that's going to be 2034. It's going to be, today is July 24th, 2024. So where are you going to be, 10 years from now, right? And it's got me thinking in general. Like, this person has made, like billions of views over 10 years, all of these videos, all of these connections, all of these things. It's wonderful. Good for them. And they've, I'm sure, made their fair share of change, money. And so they can think about this. They can think about starting, something beyond this and doing their own work, which eventually they'll get into. But I'm thinking that all of this, like 10 years from now, like, I'll still be doing this. And I don't know if it's just like the mindset of, looking at my parents working and doing everything that they can do, and looking for that big number, like the big number in the 60s. And I'm just thinking, it's like, I'm as old as I am, and when I think of doing a job, I never really considered, 10 years being all that long. I mean, it is, but when you think about it, it's like, okay, you start at 18 and you go to 65. It's like, holy curse, you know, that's 47 years that you're just going at it, and when you put it into scale about 1 decade, it's like, well, this is almost five, and some people still go beyond that. So for more than half of your life, you're just working, just doing stuff, and kind of like a nice blessing that Jaden can start thinking about going beyond this. It's like I made my bag, I did my thing, I did what I wanted, and it was very fun. And it still just baffles my mind because when you think of like people that like just keep creating, and I'm not saying that they're gonna just stop creating, like they get into that around
Hitting the old 1-0. Making content on YouTube for 10 years has significantly changed the entire trajectory of my life. I started Jaden Animations when I was 16. At the time, I was super shy, quiet, anxious, knew nothing about the world. I could count the number of friends I had on one finger, but not in a sad way. I liked my simple little life. For the longest time, I didn't even realize YouTube had channels or that people were uploading things like vlogs and series and skits. I mean, it was definitely less established at the time compared to now, but I saw YouTube as just the place to watch funny cats and compilations of people getting hit in the garage. The way I found out about this whole online world was after coming home from school one day to find my laptop not turning on, meaning I couldn't play Minecraft anymore. We've all been there, it's tragic. To satisfy my desperate Minecraft hyperfixation, I typed Minecraft into the YouTube search bar to see if anyone just so happened to upload any Minecraft-related videos, and oh, were there people uploading Minecraft-related videos. My world expanded exponentially at that very moment. YouTube channels, subscribers, people uploading content for an audience that looks forward to their videos. The first channel I ever subscribed
Uh-oh, what just happened? This is... because... we did it. Okay, so...
was a Minecraft YouTuber who, I don't even, I'm blanking on the name, but I was now aware of YouTube as an actual community beyond funny fail compilations. Watching videos became a huge part of my day-to-day life. I put stuff on when I wanted to relax, laugh, needed background noise. If I was having a tough day, I would lock myself in my bathroom, lay on the floor, and watch videos on my phone, and I'd feel better. Even before making content myself, YouTube was an essential part of my life. I branched out from Minecraft to general gaming videos, even the occasional vlog series, until I stumbled upon a very special video in my suggested feed. An animated story time from a YouTuber called Donna.
Yeah, that's another YouTuber that just was like, here I am, and now I'm gone. It's like Jenna Marbles. Wow. What a throwback. Oh, goodness. Can I? Yeah, we did it.
It was his emails video. I remember it so clearly. After watching it, I immediately binged his whole channel. I loved his animated stories. They made me laugh so much. For the first time ever, I thought to myself, I want to do stuff like that. I want to animate. And around the same time, I was really into
and that got me thinking, it's like, yeah, it's like, and people like a good animation. And there's a bunch of fun animations that you can really come into your own. I mean, ergo, we're watching one. I know, I don't... Uh-oh. What's going on? Like, oh, that's what I pressed. I was just... I don't think I'd be doing animation anytime soon. I think it would be very fun. It'd be a fun project. But, I mean, if people want it, hey, then I guess I'm an animator now. But really, that actually goes into the crux of this whole thing about content creation and what I want to do with it. And while this amateur arc is going on, the content is going to be, I'll admit, a bit lackluster. There's a reason why there's the term training montage, right? And the reason is because you get all the highlights, when you're doing like the 1,000th pull up and the 10,000th push up, and then when you're like punching up punching bag and then it skips frames, skips into time where the punching bags are beaten up. There's a reason why they skip through that, because honestly, it's boring and also repetitive. Because training in and of itself, it's supposed to be focusing on training and getting better. Yeah, you focus on the training. The So when you lock in and focus in on, drawing that perfect circle so you can get that cross going, so you can get all of this done, it's trying to push that as content, without, teaching it, without it being a lesson that I'm, ones that we're watching together, it's not so much content, unless you have like this set goal beyond, something. And I need to think about that more too. And I'm going to be pushing to try to make that more entertaining. And I attempted that, and then the whole medical thing happened, and everything started to came to a screeching halt. So we're going to get back onto that. But the moment that she said, hey, animation, it's like, oh, yeah, like make content, make something that you want. And truly, that's what I wanted to do, is to get good enough to draw stuff to then start making content. And that content would be pursuing my dream and taking you along with me. Then I was thinking, well, the author one from One Punch Man, I mean, he wasn't good, and he knew that, but he wanted to get his comic out anyway. He wanted to get it down. So he just drew. He just drew how he was, drew what he could. There it is. And we all know the story. And, that's something that I want to do. Actually, once we get through this whole little thing, maybe this will be like the first thing that I post. It's going to be weird that this will be a reaction, but we'll see how it goes. And let's keep going, because there's a balance, and I feel like I'm going too heavy on one side. Okay.
Cupquake's Minecraft Oasis series, and had even sent in a few fan arts I drew for her. She posted a couple at the end of her videos, which genuinely made me so extremely happy. I was totally freaking out. Anyway, in one of the episodes, she mentioned that she wanted to find an animator to animate some of her funny Minecraft moments, and suddenly I saw the stars align in front of me. I sent her a little message attached to another fan art, basically saying, "Hi."
I don't really like Minecraft all that much. You'd think I would, but, well, I mean, you don't know. I have a slight background in architecture, and it was nice, but hey, oh my god, Cupquake. That's right. That's a old YouTuber. Yes, I'm calling them old. I'm calling everyone old.
Cupquake, I'd love to animate for you if you're interested. And she ended up reaching out and was like, hey, we love your style and would love to work with you. Do you have an animation portfolio we can look at? To which I responded with, so I've never actually animated before, but I'm learning, and honestly, they shouldn't have hired me. I wouldn't have hired me. But somehow I have secured my first animation job. And for my favorite YouTuber, this was by far the biggest thing to ever happen to me at the time. I wanted to make the best animation they could ever ask for. Now, I just had to learn how to animate. No joke, I literally typed how to animate and Adobe Flash tutorial into the YouTube search bar. That's how I learned. No class or school or nothing. I vividly remember opening Adobe Flash for the first time and wishing I could just skip forward in time to when I already knew how to even use the program because I was so confused. Humble beginnings, what can I say? And honestly, that's all it takes. People ask me all the time how I learned to animate, how I do this and that, what program to use. But you already have the biggest source of free online information at your fingertips. Just type whatever you want to learn into the search bar and people will literally teach it to you. No strings attached. While working on the animation for Cupquake and her husband Red, I talked to them about how I also wanted to make YouTube videos, that I wanted to animate little stories, but I was too nervous. They were both really supportive and encouraging, saying they'll put a link to my channel in the description of the animation to help me and stuff. I'll be completely honest, if Cupquake and Red didn't hire me and offer to help give me that initial push to start a YouTube channel, I wouldn't have made Jade Animations. Like I mentioned, I was quiet and soft-spoken. I didn't even get picked on because nobody knew anything about me to bully me with. They had nothing. In what world would a tiny little 16-year-old dust mite of a girl feel confident enough to start an animation YouTube channel where she talks about her life, especially for what would be a single-digit amount of people for who knows how long? I'll tell ya, she does it in a world where she feels encouraged and inspired by the people she looked up to. There's so many timelines where none of this ever happened, but so much had to come together just for me to start. And against all odds.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, she said 10 years ago, so it was, back in June, July 24, 2014. So, I mean, who knows? We could probably actually figure that out. Probably just go there. But, I mean, that's kind of it. You just start. Here we are.
It did. I finished the animation, they posted it, and I spent pretty much the entire month reading every single comment. Everyone loved it. It was doing really well. I remember messaging Cupquake a giant sobby thank you paragraph when the video hit 1 million views. By the way, the entire animation was made on only 3 layers because any more would make my brain confused. I genuinely cannot believe they hired me. At the same time, I posted my very first video as Jane Animations, introducing myself and announcing that I'm gonna try out making animation videos. It's funny looking back at because if you don't know all the context, you'll watch my first video and be like, who's this dumbass talking to? She just started the channel. There's no audience yet. The shout out Cupquake gave me in the description gave me the boost I needed to shake the second thoughts. I gained 2,000 or 3,000 subscribers right out the gate, and ever since then, I've wanted to keep making more content. And I was really, really excited about it. I made more animations for Cupquake for a couple years alongside posting my own stupid little.
Yeah, that's what I need. You just you just gotta get hired. Just get your job and get them to promote you. Easy, easy for. If you can't tell, my personality is very sarcastic. No, I'm very happy. Very. If ever, I can be quite sarcastic. So we'll just keep going.
Videos until eventually parting ways with them to focus entirely on Jaden Animations. Working with them was amazing, and those animations did overwhelmingly well at the time. Like, I look back and I'm still shocked. I apparently peaked with that damn 2014 FNAF animation. Come on, Nuzlocke, surpass it, please. Free me from these shackles. By this time, I was in college now, and even though I wasn't able to post very much at all, things were doing really well. I remember sitting on the top of my dorm bunk, secretly celebrating hitting 100,000 subscribers, a milestone I was beyond thrilled about, and honestly was my biggest goal at the time. Somehow, my roommate ended up finding out about it and immediately told every single person on our floor, which embarrassed the hell out of me. But at the same time, I was sheepishly proud of myself that people thought what I was doing was cool. Along with new experiences, for the first time ever, I was making online friends and becoming part of a growing little animation community. Cypher Den, Tony V Tunes, Lightsen. I even stumbled onto James randomly after being recommended.
You know, and I mean, it's putting the cart before the horse, but there's a whole bunch of artists out there doing, well, art, and I just wonder. I'm just thinking, where this art will take me, and that's kind of cool. I think about that. I wish there was a. I'm sure there's a word that's opposite of nostalgia, where you just keep thinking. It's not daydreaming, but it's you think into futures, like, fondly, that could be. But who knows?
Recommended his ASMR video. I specifically remember going through his channel and thinking, I can't believe this guy doesn't have more subscribers. He's so funny. And well, would you look at that? After finishing my first year in college, I ended up talking to my parents about taking a gap year to see where all this YouTube stuff could go. They were, of course, hesitant at first, making videos on YouTube for money. Can you even do that? But eventually agreed and have been my biggest fans ever since. I was officially doing YouTube full time. I don't really know what happened, but a few months later, James started blowing up. In our little animation group chat, we were like, whoa, James, congrats, what's happening? And he was like, I don't know, oh my god. And then I started blowing up too, and suddenly the entire Storytime animation community was rising and thriving. It felt like we were strapped onto a rocket heading straight for the stars. People really loved watching Storytime animation. We went to our first ever VidCon, and there was a whole line of people that wanted to meet us, which is a crazy experience for our first convention ever. Since then, everything has kind of just been history. I kept posting, obviously, met new people, made incredible friends, started building my own animation team, learned a lot about the world, but most of all, being on YouTube forced me to grow thicker skin. I'm sure most of you can relate to some degree. Mindless hate, online arguments, people nitpicking and speculating.
I mean, you gotta have to do that. Nowadays, it's like, everyone wants to cancel someone over something, but you just gotta just be like, you know what, F it. But like, I don't like who are you? Who are you to tell me that to stop pursuing my dream? You're nobody. You know what? And I'm nobody too, and that's okay. But I'm working to be constructive instead of destructive. And there's a time for destruction, but it's not right now. I'm gonna keep working.
That you're actually a horrible human being because of how normalized posting content is now with TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I'm sure everyone has gotten their fair share of the hate hammer, but 10 years ago, it was pretty much only big online personalities who were familiar with it, and it comes at you pretty fast. Suddenly, you have to figure out how to hide your personal information and tell family members to private their Facebook accounts, which they don't know how to do. Scary emails come in, uncomfortable comments, lots of uncomfortable comments. I got doxxed one time because someone speculated I was a narcissistic liar because I claimed to be shy and introverted, but would get loud sometimes when reading scripts. Also, fun fact, I never planned on being public with my full name, but the reason it got leaked is because my old high school published an online article about my channel and dropped the full government without my permission. I'm still pissed about that one, and I know, this is genuinely what you just have to expect when you make content online. It's awful, but it's the truth. I didn't want to quit, so I adapted to the horrible things awful videos made about me for attention. There's nothing a passerby hate comment can say that could surprise me anymore. If anything, they're all the same, and it's just annoying at this point. Not saying I'm happy that I went through all of it, and it should have happened. People can be genuinely awful, but I'd like to say I've come out of it all a version of myself that wouldn't have existed otherwise. Not because of all the shitty things, but in spite of them. I've learned how to stand up for myself, grew my confidence, learned how to separate myself from my work and not take comments personally. All things you learn out in the world over time as you grow up, but crank to 100 and during the most insecure years of a person's life. It was hard, but hey,
So basically, touch grass. That's what she's saying. Just go touch grass. Go touch grass. Do it up.
I'm still here, aren't I? I look back and see my mistakes, bad takes, stupid ideas, regret here and there. It's overwhelmingly stressful to grow up and learn and change while in the public eye, even more now than ever. But all things considered, I believe I was always trying my best in the position I was in. Was constantly trying to be the best person I could be, and I won't ever be upset at myself for that. Also, I do want to say, a big thing that's followed me throughout almost my whole career at this point is the fact that, yeah, I've talked about mental health and things I've struggled with at the time, like anxiety, depression, rock bottom confidence, etc., etc. I've definitely spilled my guts out on the floor in front of the internet a couple times in my day, and there's no part of me that regrets it at all. A lot of people have told me that they felt more understood or learned things about themselves through those videos, but as a now adult that's had the time to grow and adapt and overcome these things, man, you guys kind of still think I'm a little bit pathetic. I see comments all the time when I'm in my friends' videos or being involved in a big event, and so many people go, wow, I can't believe how far Jaden's come from being this puny little scared teenager. I'm so proud of Jaden, really stepping out of her comfort zone here. She is just so brave for showing her face after dealing with such a low confidence. That one's always funny.
so strong, so independent. God, yeah, you know, let's go.
Because it can definitely come off like I should still be self-conscious, which I'm not, by the way. I get what those comments are saying, I really do. But guys, not everything I do has to be brave. I'm just doing fun things with friends on camera. We don't need the 24/7 Jaden cheer squad busting out the trophies and medallions every single time. And we also don't need the Jaden defense squad scrapping with anyone that says anything non-positive about me. It's the internet. People have the right to not like me for whatever reason. I promise, it's okay. I'm an adult. I'm doing fine. I appreciate the concern. At this point, it just comes across like I'm very pathetic and puny and can't do anything. Now, somehow, a decade has passed. I'm not the tiny, small 16-year-old who's afraid of everything and can't talk out loud for more than 15 minutes without straining her throat. That's true, by the way. I spent 15 minutes recording audio for my first video and my throat was dead afterwards. It was pathetic. Now I can record for an hour. Which still hurts my throat, you can probably hear it, but that's a 400% improvement right.
You know, I always wondered about that. It's like I never had that situation. I'll admit, I'm being rather introverted. I don't really, I don't really, I don't really start a conversation, but I do continue it. I actually pride myself on that. Like, I can pretty much continue just about anything, but I really struggle with starting a conversation. So like if there's like two people in a room, you know, like if they're not gonna say hi, well, I guess we're just our gooses are cooked. That's it. We're just not gonna be talking. But I'll admit, you know, once, you know, if I have to, if I really have to just dig deep, I'll do it. I'll be that guy. I'll be the one who says hi and broach the subject of socializing. But there it is. But my whole point was that, you know, talking for 15 minutes hasn't never been a problem. You know, talking for 60 minutes has never really been a problem. You know, just talking in general. But I'm sure once I start doing this for, you know, life, it's I might feel that, you know, it start to impact, but we'll see. We'll find out, you know. So as of right now, we're doing good. I'm doing good. So I hope you're doing good too. So back to the show.
Right there. I'm 26, created hundreds of hours worth of content, have the most wonderful team in the world behind me, am surrounded by amazing friends, live with the most important person in my life, with the most important little creatures in my life. I've gotten to meet content creators I've looked up to, got to tour and travel the world with talented friends, talk on panels to hundreds of people who wanted to hear what I had to say, been able to tell the people that inspired me how big of a role they've played.
See, all of this within 10 years. You know, and again, like, that sounds so daunting because when you put that in perspective to other things, like it's like a middle schooler becoming a freshman and then you just plus 10 and they're just like already, if they're going for like a master's, like they're already there. Like that's it. You did it. You went from freshman to master's degree. So yeah, I mean it's not a short amount of time, but it's also wild that within, you know, that short amount of time, within, you know, relation to your entire life, you can do that. You can do this. And well, so can I. And we're starting. It's day 18. So let's make the most of it. Let's make the most of our day.
Played in my career and even got to stand next to them as an equal. I'm happy. Sure, it's always been and still is difficult dealing with the stress of being in a big spotlight. I went through some bad stuff, navigated rocky mental health, trusted people that hurt me, had to pretend not to be affected by things that were genuinely hurtful just to not empower people that wanted to see me break, all while in the eye of the public where one wrong step could crumble everything I've ever created. But I'm really happy with the place I'm at, the person I've become, and the environment I've built around me. So what's that leave me with now? A full decade, man. Damn, 10 years of the most difficult, enjoyable, terrifying, exciting, stressful, grateful, soul-crushing, unforgettably special moments of my life. How lucky and grateful I am to have the privilege to say I've gotten to experience so many impossible things, to have so many dreams created and come true, to see myself persist through such a difficult position to be in. After taking a lot of time reminiscing and thinking about what could come next, the direction I want to take to follow what could keep making me happy, I've come to accept that YouTube isn't going to be part of it. I'm happy with what I've accomplished. I had my rise and grind years, I experienced real and true passion.
And this is where that whole spiel at the beginning of it was about, right here, right wherever this is. At minute 15, minute 15, we did it. We finally got there. See, it all makes sense. It all comes full circle. See, I told you. There's a point to all of this. The method to my madness. Let's go.
That's all I could really ask for here. There's not much else I want to do beyond it at this point. But before you freak out, I'm not quitting right this moment. I still absolutely love making content and still have the desire to keep making videos. But my YouTube years are numbered now. I fantasize about logging off as Jaden Animations and becoming a normal person again. I want to move to a random-ass town in a random-ass place, have a little house with my creatures, have a normal job with normal hours and normal problems, live a life where people don't know who I am before I introduce myself. Not saying I don't like being recognized. You can come up to me, I promise, I don't mind. But eventually I just want to feel like a person again. Normal is rapidly changing nowadays, but I don't want this chronically online lifestyle forever. How nice it would feel to one day not have to triple check every single
and I get it, you know. So, you know, it's like, yeah, oh my goodness. And to my point, oh my days, okay, oh my god. So I still can't self-promote properly. Oh my days. Okay, so here we go. We're let's see. Okay. Let's see. Posting it to Twitter. Back at let's see. Yeah. Let's see. Oh my god. So yeah, this is all part of the. Oh god. Oh no. I need to do a reaction. Oh god. Okay. So we're freaking out. So okay, let's make this quick. Back at it. Doing my first reaction. Of course, this is going to be on the same thing because I can't edit. So doing my first reaction, and it's going, and it's totally not scuffed. Hooray! Totally not scuffed. Yes. So what should the hashtag be? What should the hashtag be? Hashtag be VTuber, of course. Hashtag I'm like the SNL skit. Let's see, we're panicking. We'll do watch me fly. Hashtag VTuber EN. Sure. There we go. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that. Perfect. Boom. Did it. Oh my god, did I put it on the right one? Sure did. Sure did. Right. Back to hating waffles.
Single thing I say in fear of people's pitchforks, or fear for my safety when people maliciously leak my private information, or even be constantly surrounded by strangers' opinions on me and every version of myself I've ever been, every moment of my life. I hold it all together pretty well, I'd say. I mean...
Oh, yeah, so the point is like, yeah, I mean, it's like, I get it, like, all of this stuff, and, like, you know, eventually, you know, it comes with the territory, and it just really reminds me of Hassan saying how streaming is like the most difficult thing forever, like forever and always. It's the most difficult thing ever. And you know what, maybe no, I mean, I can't even joke, you know, he's not wrong, he's not right. let's be real, ladies and gentlemen, let's be real. Streaming is, in and of itself, is not difficult, you know, like, just there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it, but no, streaming is not on the echelon of difficulty. If you're looking for, you know, let's go.
It's my job to. And none of these negatives have and ever will outweigh the positive aspects of this incredible opportunity that you guys have allowed me to have. I don't want to come across like I'm complaining. I very much understand this is just, unfortunately, part of it all, and I'm very privileged and very grateful. But I can't do it forever, and I don't want to. I want to feel like I have the time and mental energy to pursue new hobbies, experiment with other things that can make me happy. Making content for YouTube never leaves my head. It's the case for every single content creator on the platform. There's no clocking out, there's no weekends, there's no breaks. You can't just leave an office and not think about it. You're constantly brainstorming ideas, managing everything, schedules, employees. Sure, you can work and live anywhere you want, go on vacation at any point, build your own schedule, but it's always there. Like a black hole in your mind, it's just so exhausting. I haven't felt like I can sit back and enjoy something in 10 years because I simply do not have the time if it isn't for a video. Yeah, that's just how self-employment works, but don't forget about all the other fun stuff I've already mentioned on top of it all. I don't know what I want to do career-wise after retiring from YouTube, but I romanticize the idea of just getting to rediscover myself. Maybe I want to learn how to make custom plushes and open my own little shop, take art commissions, be a teacher, maybe an art director. It's gotten to the point where I think about that little life every day, and I'm actively aiming and walking towards it with every decision I make. Oh, let me tell you, I genuinely cannot wait to live it one day. But there's this other side of me that's so terrified. I've spent my entire...
And, I mean, she does have a big point to all of that. But the thing is that what I worry about, I mean, she doesn't need my worry, but when it comes down to it, you know, she's 26. So let's just say, you know, she runs 4 more years, right? Now you're 30. It's like, and now you're doing all of this. right? So, which is great, but now you have this void that needs to be filled. And what do you fill it with? You can say all of this, that, and the other thing, but eventually, you're gonna learn all of Japanese. You're gonna be fluentish. You're gonna finish your sculpting, and then it's gonna be like, oh, okay, well, did that. You're gonna travel to different countries, that you haven't gone before, or even if you have been there before, you can actually. What was it? It was like it was in the Wears Prada, where what's his name? The assistant is, he says to actually see Paris. And yeah, to finally do that, but to, like how fast can you do that? Let's just say you take a month, that's like 1 month. And like our life expectancy is 80. I mean, hers is. I mean, I plan on personally living to 100. We're gonna have like a solid 90 years, right? Then we're gonna start to coast down, right? We're gonna have, we're gonna be like, Grandpa Agua is gonna be, slowing down a bit. Once I hit 90, I'm gonna just coast down to 100 and be like, you know what? Once we hit 100, if I'm healthy, hey, I'm babysitting. But if I'm not, I'm gonna be like, yo, here it is. We're good. I probably got, a couple more, maybe a year, maybe a week, maybe a month. Who knows? But, and then I'll peace out. Then I'll peace out. But again, like, let's just say she puts in 4 years. You have 50 years. Like, so what are you gonna do? It's like, yeah, right? And I'm sure she's figured that out. But just to let you all know, like if you do all of the successful stuff and do all of this stuff, and you're like, bam, 30 is it, and we're retiring, 35, and you're retiring, God bless you. But you have to think of, and then you quit, you retire. What are you gonna do? Think about that. Think about what you want to do. Make a good plan for yourself. Apparently you've planned well enough to get yourself in a position where you can retire. So love yourself enough to plan on what you want to do after it and have fun.
Entire young adult life in front of an audience, doing pretty much one thing. I don't know what it's like to live without a platform, surrounded by a huge audience anymore. It scares me, like a lot. I don't want to need this, but I'm scared that I do, in some way. When the time comes, I'll definitely work on that fear in therapy or something, but I do think about it a lot. I'm not done with YouTube just yet. I still want to make animations and tell stories, animate little gaming videos. I still just love it so much, and I'm not going away just yet. Sorry to disappoint some of you. I just wanted to let you guys know how grateful I am that you've helped me be right here. I've gotten to meet hundreds of people who told me how much they liked my videos, felt inspired, discovered something about themselves, even did something as small as laugh at one of my stupid-ass jokes. I can't wrap my head around the idea that a lot of you grew up watching my videos and are like functioning people in society now. That one always feels like. I know you're not calling me old, but you're calling me old. I'm grateful for all the art people have drawn for me. Even now, it's still so surreal. From the cute
We're
little jewels from kids to
old.
jaw-dropping, fully rendered pieces from artists of all ages. Like, you guys are better artists than me at this point. What do you mean I inspired you? Why does my art look like that then? The whole reason I show fan art at the end of my videos is because I look back at the feeling I got when Cupquake put my art in her videos, and I want to be able to give that back to other artists. People have told me they watch my videos to laugh, listen to while working, to feel better after a crummy day. All the ways I used to consume YouTube back in my day. Even though it's easy for me to tell myself, they're just little stupid videos I make. What's a big deal? It kind of also feels like I get to contribute to a cycle I used to be on the other side of and pay it back. I don't know, it just feels good knowing I've made stuff that's made people feel better in a way that other content creators used to make me feel better. I've rambled quite a bit, but thank you for letting me make these silly videos for 10 years. I never would have thought any of this could have happened to little old me, and definitely not for this long. I absolutely thought I would have been tossed aside and forgotten by now. I look back at when things were starting to roll, and I was like, I've got like a 3-year shelf life left. I'm forever grateful for you, my friends, my family, my team. I don't know what my life would have looked like if I didn't type Minecraft into the YouTube search bar when I was 14. Who knows how much more time we have with each other, but just know it has been and still is an honor to be here. And until then, I'll be doing my best to keep doing what I've been doing for 10 years and just make these silly little animations. You know, the timing is a little awkward to have just won a giant Mr. Beast YouTuber challenge that put a lot of eyes on my channel, only for the first
Yeah,
thing for me to
So she finally has. I'll let her finish. Okay, hold up.
put out since winning is
We're
me
almost
talking
done.
about how I'm really tired and want to retire one day. That was not intentional, I'm sorry. But yes, the next video coming out will be about me winning the Mr. Beast Cube. We're still working on getting the money all set up to be given away. So you can stop emailing me asking for money. It's not going to work like that. Anyway, thank you to everyone who's been with me at any point of my YouTube career. I've still got a little bit more juice left in the tank. I'm forever lucky to have lived the life I have and to continue living that life. And I appreciate you guys for sticking around. I'm excited to spend a bit more time with you all. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Yeah. So there's all of that. Oops. I don't know how. yeah, so
Awkward to
so
have
that's
just won a
that,
giant
and
Mr. Beast.
it it makes me it made me start thinking about how to push content through my own unique content. Maybe it is through a story time, and maybe I mean, like like Jesus, like they just said, hey, I'm gonna retire. My days are numbered. I am going to leave YouTube forever. We'll never see you again, forever and ever, and all you will have is nostalgia. So I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, they do art, I do art. They're leaving. I'm starting. I mean, there's gonna be a vacuum there. Someone's got to do it. Maybe it should be me. Maybe it could be me. But I mean, why not? Seriously. Again, all of this stems from having nowadays. It stems from the having the audacity to say, "Hey, you know what? I'm not Jaden Animation right now, but I can be. I will be. I can fill this void, and maybe you know what? Instead of one person, maybe it'll be me and other people down the road who I have no idea who are also streaming to 0 people and trying to figure it out. So to that, God bless them. I have watched, like, I can probably count the number of videos of theirs I've watched on one hand, and but as I said, it's been 10 years, and a lot of people have enjoyed their work. So from coming from someone that's been through it for 10 years, and now me talking about who's been at it for 18 days, makes me feel good. And I hope in this sense that while it ironically is, like it says, like she said, it was gonna be, oh, their days are numbered on YouTube. It's very hopeful, and so for whoever watches that, I hope that they find some hopefulness in that, and whoever watches this will find some hope in that too, because now you have both sides, and I'm not gonna let it stop me, and I'm looking forward to the next 10 years and what that brings, So so here it is, you know. As a first reaction, I really don't know how to end this, so I'll just we'll just leave it at that. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, this was fun. So I'll try to edit. I mean, no, I don't. No, screw that. Screw that. Nope, I won't be editing it. I don't have editing skills. I don't know how to edit. I don't have the Pokebucks to hire an editor. So it's just gonna go up there raw. So yeah. So I guess I'll just say my outro now. So for this portion, so for anyone who is watching this as a video on my channel, thank you for coming. It's If you put a like, comment, and subscribe, LCS down below, I will truly be grateful. And with that, I won't keep you any longer. So wish you well, and I wish you love. Take care. Yeah. And there we go. So that was pretty cool. I like that. I like how that worked. So I mean, I'm probably gonna have to still edit that down. That's gonna be annoying because I do need to get rid of the semi intro, I guess, of the stream. Who knows? I'll figure it out. But I'll have to. Oh God, I'm gonna have to do a clip or something. I don't even know how to do a clip or something. But we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, and hopefully I can do it in like HD or something. Again, I don't know. You know what? Honestly, since well, all of this is important to, this is an art. This is art. Or this is the whole thing was for art and to do. I've already talked to Errol about it enough. But maybe let's find something else. Reacting and trying to build on that is important as well. So one of the things, what was I going to look? Um, let's see. Okay, that still works. Fantastic. So one of the things that I'd like to find, maybe we can do some looking up for some. Who knows? Who knows? Is that what this is going to be about? But oh, I do know. I do know. In fact, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you right now. It's part of, as I said before, animations to me that never really crossed my mind. It's part of the art world. So yeah, it's like, oh, cool. That's a thing. But for me and what I wanted to achieve, it's not on the top of the list of things to do. Like maybe I could do it, do do throw in some keyframes and then make a scuffed, mids, do some mids, and then we have we have a video, fellas. But actually, one of the things that I wanted to try. Oh, that's what I wanted to look up. Well, I'll keep talking while I look up some things. One of the things that I did want to do is uh, is bring one of the stories that I have to a visual, to be a visual creation. Like, to say manga would be the closest thing that I'd like to try to give it at. There's so many ways to just draw something. I was thinking more in the realm of, again, like I said, a slight background in architecture, but you would have books and then you would have quote unquote plates. And each of these plates would, they'd be in the center of the book. And, you'd read all of this and then you go to the plate and it'd be like, oh my God, it's right here. There it is. I can see it now. It's the Taj Mahal. Crazy. But, then so I was thinking more on that, right, on that sense, to make illustrations to highlight certain impactful moments that I would have. And one of the things that I'd like to do that, see if that can become an actual thing. And instead of focusing on the illustration in and of itself, just like one like masterful illustration, like just doing multiple pictures and getting multiple angles and just getting those, that perspective that skill set, start building that up. So actually, one of the things that I'm actually going to be looking through for right now is, let's see. So I personally use Quick 2DO Paint. You can spell. And yeah, so actually, I'd like so we can actually take a gander. This this is what we're trying to figure out. How to set up a page margin. Like what do you think? It's like how to set up a page in Clip Studios. I mean, this is a year ago, so it's not comic book settings. I mean, this one is up top, so it has to be really good, right? But then again, there's 338,000. Um, hmm, maybe we'll give this a shot. See how that goes. That's 18 minutes, 19 minutes. We run that. If you haven't known already, I run things at 2 times the speed. Why? Because everything is super slow. I will be watching if they do have advertisements. I will be watching, but I mean, let's be real. I mean, I don't. I gotta go fast. Gotta go fast. And you know what? You can hate that I'm taking away, watching time or whatever. Or you can say, oh my god, you gotta slow it down. It's like, well, hey, all the more reason for you to watch the video at its own speed for you. Because one of the things that I've just realized is that, when watching reactions to things like Asmongold and just, I mean, primarily that right now, the I don't have to watch. Let's be real. I don't have to watch that video. I don't have to watch Comic Storian to say the thing again. I don't have to watch Ackman say the thing again. I don't need to watch Bellier, say the thing again. I already watched it through Asman on his channel. I gave him a view. I've already watched your stuff. So in one way, if you don't like the speed, I mean, you're watching the whole thing and you're listening. And I guess when I make a clip of it or something, you can slow it down. Yes, maybe. But hey, all the more, I mean, hopefully, I mean, the double-edged sword of all of this is like, oh man, it's going too fast. I can't enjoy it. So then you just skip my video and then just go to their video, and that sucks. But I mean, it is what it is. Eventually, you will all come to learn to love 2 times. Just think about it. It's like, oh man, how much time do I have? It's like, oh, I have an hour. It's like, well, you do this, and that's a third. You only have time to watch 3 videos. Now, but then you put it on 2 times, and now you got 6 videos. Think about that. Think about it that way. I'm helping you. That's what I'm doing. I'm the one that's your friend. I'm helping you. Okay. Anyway. Sure. Let's see what this one's all about. Let's do a little.
Hello, lovely
Oh my
art
God.
people. Grab your art tools of choice because it's time for another tutorial video. I've made videos in the past talking about a lot of aspects of making comics. How to write them, things you should consider when doing page layouts, programs that are good for drawing, the back-end work that goes into making webcomics specifically, etc. But one thing I've never really covered is the entire comic page process. All the steps that go into making a single comic page from start to finish.
So see, this is another type of format that I would think I would, once I get better, or maybe I can get a commission to just have my character just be at this sprite and start using inserting those proper sprites, maybe post edit or whatever, do it in post. But yeah, I mean, maybe this will be an angle that I can do. I don't know. You know what? Before I didn't like. Oh no! We're gonna lose it. We're gonna lose it again. There it goes. Oh. There it is. There it is. Here we go.
I figured that would be really good information for newbie comic artists who are maybe unsure of how comics are done, or folks with some experience under their belt who just want to see how other comic artists do their thing. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm going to take you through the process of drawing an entire page of my webcomic cast-off all the way through from beginning to end, and point out some useful tools and shortcuts that will help make your life easier. For some really quick context, if you're unaware, I write and draw a fantasy adventure webcomic called Cast-Off, and in today's video, we'll be drawing the first page of the upcoming 12th chapter. Links to read the comic are down in the description, by the way. Wink.
Hey,
also, in a crazy plot twist, this video is the channel's first ever sponsored video, brought to you by none other than my
You know what? And then
art program of choice, Clip Studio Paint. I switched to using Clip Studio a few years ago, and it has so many tools and functions that make my life so much easier. I'll be sure to point those out as we go through the video, so keep your eyes and ears open. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Let's get into
When making a comic, I
Let's
always start with a
go.
script. I typically script several chapters ahead of the scenes I'm actually drawing. And I should note here that I'm talking about graphic novel length chapters. A chapter of Cast-Off can be anywhere from 40 to over 100 pages. And to give you an idea of how far ahead I script, at the time of making this video, I'm in the process of drawing. I always start with a script.
Hold up.
I typically script several chapters ahead of the scenes I'm actually drawing. And I should note here that I'm talking about graphic novel length chapters. A chapter of Cast-Off can be anywhere from 40 to over 100 pages. And to give you an idea of how far ahead I script, at the time of making this video, I'm in the process of drawing chapter 12, but I've outlined the broad strokes of the entire story, and I'm already working on scripts for the next several chapters.
Okay, so for anyone who's never scripted before, wrote a script, done a script, When they say 40 pages, it's, I mean, let's be real, that's still a lot, 40 to 100 pages. But again, look at the formatting. If you look up how to write a script, write a proper script with stage directions and everything. I mean, when you write it for a comic, it's different. It was actually interesting when I went to comics. What was it? Comic-Con? No, not Comic-Con. It was it was when I went to MegaCon. You could actually buy the, what is it? The scripts, if you will, of what the writer would actually give the artist to. Right. So like, imagine it was like, we'll start at the A. We'll start at the A, like right here. So it would be, like what you would give the artist. It would be like the day begins and the protagonist is walking into their room forlorn, and you don't know what happened. And he pauses at the window. The female protagonist walks in behind him and reaches out a hand, but then stays it. She doesn't know truly what to say. And the protagonist turns around and looks into her eyes, and you see that his are watery. Before he can even get a word out, he breaks down. Falling to his knees, he reaches out. Like a child, he can only grab at her pant leg. And he thinks about the war has taken from him. And you write that, and there it is. Boom. And then you give it to your artist, and then they from here, they do the whole sketch. They do everything. They do paneling. They do all of that, and that's for 1 page. So I mean, in her sense, it's the way she's doing it. It looks like it's by like an actual script. Like if you were to read Cyrano de Bergerac, or like like Shakespeare, you'd see like here's A, here's Alfred. He's saying, I told you before. The gem's bound. Okay, what is it? Like I told you before, once the gem's bounded, good. Even if, see, and this is why stage directions are nice. Which he has right here. See, and look at formatting. So subconsciously touches the gem. So when you think about it, it kind of sounds like we're going right into a D&D dungeon master. It's like, I told you before, once the gem's bonded, it's bonded for good. Even if the guy you stole it from kick the bucket, the gem's still useless to anybody else. So, but yeah, okay, moving on. I've talked enough. But yeah, no, don't be discouraged. The whole point, long story short, you don't feel discouraged when they say 40 to 100 pages. It's 40 to 100 pages of script where you have to format it, you have to double space everything forever and ever. And once you start moving into it, you'll be like, oh my god, I'm on 20 pages and I need more. I need to keep going more. Anyway.
Scripting so far ahead gives me a lot of time to think about the story and make plenty of edits and tweaks to the writing before actually drawing the comic pages. I like to put a lot of thought and nuance into my scripts, and my comic is a long-form continuous story, so writing out scripts really far in advance lets me continuously add and change things if I'm hit with inspiration. In fact, I've often had pretty big breakthroughs with the story from working this far ahead, like writing a scene and then being able to go back and add foreshadowing a few chapters before that. I also like to keep my scripts accessible from anywhere and usually use a program that I can access from my phone over the internet. That way, if inspiration strikes while I'm away from my computer, I can jot down the ideas before I forget them. As for formatting my scripts, I usually use a pretty simple layout as shown here. I just use the first letter of each character's name, write out their dialogue, and make a new line every time someone new talks. I also type out movements, expressions, and ideas for stage directions into the script as well. But basically, if I have an idea for how I want the page to look at the stage, this is where I write it down. After the script, it's time to move on to a very underrated step of the process, thumbnails. Thumbnails are basically the absolute earliest sketches of a comic page. They're good for planning layouts and hashing out ideas in a quick and dirty fashion. Your thumbnails should be simple and messy. If you spend too much time on them, you'll be hesitant to change them if you come up with a better idea. A good thumbnail is flexible. This is the stage where you want to throw ideas around and wrangle your thoughts onto the paper as fast as possible. Don't be afraid to try multiple iterations of the same page. If you aren't feeling a page layout, you can scrap it and try again. Like I said, this is the time to be loose and messy. I typically do thumbnails in batches. I'll thumbnail out an entire scene all at once, then draw that scene, then thumbnail the next scene, etc., etc. I have the script open in another window while I'm doing my thumbnails, and I'll go through and break my scripts into pages as I thumbnail. I know some comic artists break their scripts into pages during the writing process, but since I make a webcomic that doesn't have to stick to scripts page counts.
Yes, so that's what I was mentioning. When they already break down that whole like made thing that I made up on the spot, like that that whole mini paragraph, that one paragraph, that was the whole page. Like they have to find, the artist has to find a way to put all of that on one page. Then they, turn the page, you wash your hands, and then you read the next paragraph, and then you write the whole thing down. So that's what they're talking about.
I prefer to do it this way. I feel like it gives me more control over the pacing and flow of certain scenes, and sometimes it's hard to tell how much can or should fit onto one page until you're actually thumbnailing it. After the thumbnails for the scene are done, now I head over into page formatting. I have a template saved in my computer that has the saved working area marked out. And since I get this question all the time, I'll go ahead and address it here. What size should you use for your comic pages? Big. Bigger than they need to be. My advice is to always draw everything at print resolution, even if you don't think you'll ever want to print it. 300 dpi, or dots per inch, is the minimum resolution for printing, so you'll want to start there. By default, your program will probably be set to 72 dpi, which is fine for web stuff, but you'll want to go higher for potentially printed material. It's always better to have your comics at a nice big print resolution and never print your comic than to decide down the road you want to print them but have your pages be too small for printing. That's what happened to me with my first webcomic, and I do not recommend it. Also, as for the exact dimensions of your pages, I'm not going to give you exact pixel dimensions because I personally think that's going to limit you too much. You need to
So you heard it there first. You heard it here first, right? Always go hard in the paint. Always prep for making $1 million, even if you're going to only just make, So, ooh, look at see. Anyway, there it is.
understand why you're making your pages that size, right? So I recommend looking up standard comic page sizes.
Wait a minute.
Dimensions, because I personally think that's going to.
So we do a 6x9 at 300. We do an 18 resolution. Interesting. I'll have to write that down later. We'll put it in notes. We'll put it in notes later. You know what? Maybe we can just do that right now. No, screw it.
Going to limit you too much. You need to understand why you're making your pages that size, right? So I recommend looking up standard comic page sizes and templates. There's a few commonly used sizes and templates for comic pages, whether it's traditional Western comic page size, manga size, US trade size, or what have you. And hey, Clip Studio actually comes with several built-in comic page templates of various sizes, which is pretty dang handy. If you're unsure which size is the best for you, I recommend going to your local bookstore and checking out the different book sizes in their comic and graphic novel section. What size feels good to you? What size could you imagine reading your own comic at? And again, even if you don't think you'll ever print your comic, it's a good idea to at least humor yourself in the early stages. If you format your pages for print when you're drawing them, you'll save yourself a lot of time reformatting them later if and when you decide to make a book. That's what I'm struggling with right now. My early cast-off pages from like 2015 didn't leave enough room for print bleed, so I had to go back and reformat over 200 pages for the eventual first volume, and I'm dying inside. So back to page formatting. I usually do the thumbnails for an entire scene all at once. Then for each page of the scene I just thumbnailed, I'll duplicate my page template, copy the thumbnail onto the page, and expand it so it fits the full save area. Now that each thumbnail is on its own page, we're ready to start the next step, lettering. Wait, sorry, you do your lettering this early? Isn't it a little too soon? I haven't even drawn anything yet. No. Now is the best time to do your lettering. Trust me on this one. On a comic page, your words are just as important as your pictures, and a well thought out comic page allows plenty of space for both. The last thing you want is to spend hours on the art for a page and then have to cover it up because you didn't leave enough room for the lettering. Your words and pictures shouldn't fight each other, they should work together. And the best way to institute a positive relationship between your art and your words is the same way you'd introduce two cats to each other. Introduce them early so they can get used to each other and make sure they each have their own space. To that end, I do my lettering before I even start sketching. I go back to my script and copy paste all the dialogue that'll go on each page. Then I drop it where it should go on the page and adjust my thumbnails if needed. One thing that makes
I can't remember the art. I can't remember the. What is it called? It's like something art, Inkwell art, I think. No, not Inkwell. But they make comics, and they do, and he talks at length about lettering and making word bubbles and the art of doing all of that. It's very cool. It's very interesting. But yeah, it's one of those things that you don't think about until you actually have to do it. So in this sense, I agree with her. Build that skill early. Do it now, and just do it, and yeah, and then see where everything falls. Then you can worry about, oh, I can just shrink it. I have the perfect font, but now I need to shrink it. That's a lot easier than trying to squish your perfect font and then try to adjust. So
makes this go a little faster is you can set text presets in Clip Studio. So I have one set up for my comic text. All I have to do is select that specific preset and blam, it automatically switches to the correct font size, line spacing, etc., which makes it super easy to keep my lettering consistent across all my comic pages. Now that all my words are on the page, if I need to change up the layout for a page slightly to make room for the lettering, I can easily do so by tweaking the thumbnails before I ever even start sketching. I usually just do the text at this point and don't add the word balloons until later. No particular reason why.
This page doesn't have a lot of text, so I didn't need any layout changes, but this step can be very useful for dialogue-heavy pages.
That's just how I like to do it. We'll come back to this after the sketches are done.
So pretty much, gang, if you're making a Death Note manga, do this, do that.
Now, there's one more step I usually like to do at this stage, incorporating 3D models. For complex environments like interior scenes or scenes with a lot of architecture or details to keep consistent, I personally enjoy making 3D models to use as a reference. I make mine from scratch in Blender, but I've also used apps like Room Sketcher for interior scenes. And if you don't have the means to make 3D models yourself, Clip Studio has a bunch of ready-made 3D assets in its library you can use to build out your scenes. But Star, isn't tracing over 3D models cheated? No. Shh. Your brain has been poisoned by bad thoughts. Get that type of talk out of here. Shoot, be gone. While using 3D models is no replacement for learning your perspective and environment drawing fundamentals, it's an extremely useful tool to not only assist with perspective, but also to help keep environments consistent when drawing a scene from multiple angles. Plus, I found that I've been able to get way more creative with my camera angles when I have a reliable 3D background model to work from. Like, these shots would never have been in the comic if I didn't have a 3D model to reference. They save you a ton of time and headaches, and I highly recommend learning your way around Blender, Clip Studio's primitive 3D tools, pre-made assets and models, or something similar so you...
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's six of one, half a dozen of another. She's going about it this way, or you can, go hard in the paint for perspective, learning perspective, finding your horizon line, and then understanding where everything fits on that horizon line. And yeah, once you do that, you don't need to do this. But it's actually also very cool because then you can take, like, you got a house, you need this house, cool. Now flip it, cool. Now that it's coming back from the other way, like 50 chapters in, bam, just rotation. Nothing, no extra work required. Of course, it's all the work of making it in the first place, so it is what it is. It's up to you.
You can make environment or prop models to use for your comic. Whatever way you like to make them, this is the point where I go in, using my thumbnails as reference, and start grabbing stills from my 3D modeling software and adding them to my panels. That way, when I start sketching, I can sketch over the 3D models and keep everything consistent. This saves a ton of time during the sketching process, so I highly recommend it. Since a large portion of this chapter is going to take place in the same handful of rooms, I hashed out a quick and dirty Blender model that I can use to take screenshots of and draw over for my backgrounds. Once I've got my thumbnails, lettering, and 3D reference all placed where they need to be, the next step after that is sketching, which I think is pretty self-explanatory. Sometimes I'll make page layout tweaks during the sketch phase, but usually I'm just drawing straight on top of my thumbnails. Once the sketch is done, I go back in and finalize the lettering. I do the final tweaks to text location and add in my word balloons. If I need to adjust the sketch further at this point, I do, but usually the only adjustment needed is making a character a little smaller or moving them over slightly. That's why we do our lettering before the sketch, so we don't have to make any major changes after we've already sketched a page. Once I'm satisfied with the sketch and word bubble layout, I start inking. I usually do all my panel borders using the Clip Studio Paint panel tools, then lock that layer so I don't accidentally mess with it. Really quick, here's how I personally use the panel tool. First, block out the full area your panels will occupy with the Create Frame tool. You can also use the tool properties to adjust the line width and other things. Then I use the Cut Frame tool to slice that big panel into a bunch of smaller panels based on my sketch.
We're gonna have to come back to this because this is actually exactly what I wanted. So, inking panels, flats and fill buckets. Oh, I love the fill bucket. Fill bucket is fun. Rendering, final render. Let's see, exporting, closing. So, yeah, this is actually This is literally the whole reason why I clicked this video, is to figure this out. The inking and paneling, or primarily paneling. So, let's go.
Again, you can adjust the settings with the tool property menu. This is how you adjust how much space you cut between the panels. Now, you can use the panels like this and move on from here, but I personally like having just the panel borders on their own layer without any of the extra little doodads. So I right-click on the frame layer folder, hit rasterize, and then delete all the extra layers. And now I have a nice free layer with my panel borders on it, and I lock this layer so I don't accidentally move around. Then I make a new layer to do all my inks. I typically do the line art for my characters on one layer and the line art for my backgrounds on another layer. This makes things a little easier if I need to tweak placements later. Also, another question I get a lot is what brushes I use for inking. Well, completely honest and very boring answer, 99% of my inking is done with Clip Studio's default hard round brush, which they call the G pen. I made a few tweaks to the pen pressure settings to accommodate for how hard I press down when I
Let's watch that back again, Con.
9% of my inking is done with Clip Studio. Also, another question I get a lot is what brushes I use for inking. Well, completely honest and very boring answer, 99% of my inking is done with Clip Studio's default hard round brush, which they call the G pen. I made a few tweaks to the honest and very boring answer, 99% of my inking is done with Clip Studio's default hard round brush, which they call the G pen. I made a few tweaks to the pen pressure settings to accommodate for how hard I press down when I draw, but other than that, I'm a basic default brush girly. Inking usually takes me between 1 to 3 hours, depending on how detailed the page is. And hey, did you know that I stream myself inking comic pages sometimes? It's true! Check the live tab on my page to see the archive drawing streams and check out the time for my next art stream. I do them pretty regularly, so come hang out with me while I draw if you want. Anyway, once the inks are done, now it's time to flat colors. One layer for character flats, one for background flats. One thing that I started doing recently is making pre-planned color palettes for each scene of the comic.
Yeah, okay.
Now it's time to flat colors. One layer for character flats, one for background flats. One thing that I started doing recently is making pre-planned color palettes for each scene of the comic. That way I can change the character's flats for each scene and they require less fiddling during the coloring phase. I usually put this together before I start drawing each scene of the comic. I'll grab references of color schemes, photos, or illustrations I like that I think match the atmosphere of the scene, then put together a color palette with all the flat colors for the characters and backgrounds. I usually make little reference images like this, and they make it really quick and easy to grab the colors I need without needing to color pick off of a tiny reference or just abstract blobs of color. Then I save that color palette into a reference file, and I'll keep that reference file open in Clip Studio's subview window. The subview is really handy for keeping reference images readily available while drawing, and if you click the little eyedropper in the subview tool, when you hover over the window, it'll automatically switch you to the eyedropper tool, and you can really quickly grab the color you need to fill in your flats. It makes flatting so much faster. Another tool that helps flatting go faster is my BFF, the fill bucket. Some people hate the fill bucket tool because it doesn't work with their art style or whatever, but I'm fully of the belief that those folks could use it if they just got the settings tweaked to suit their art style. Like so. When coloring, I make a new layer underneath my line art for my flat colors. Then I go to town with the fill bucket. Here's the settings I use for mine. Area scaling turned up to about 10 with refer multiple checked off and scaling mode set to 2 darkest pixel. Area scaling lets the colors bleed under your line art a little bit, which gets rid of the nasty transparent halo around your line art you might encounter when you use the fill bucket. I use a thicker line art style and usually set it at about 10 or so, and having it set to 2 darkest pixel means that no matter how high your scaling is set to, the color shouldn't bleed past your line art. Adjust these settings as necessary. If you use really thin line art or line art with transparency, this might not work as well, but for me, who uses really thick solid black inks, this is the perfect method. Also, refer multiple means that the fill bucket looks at all the visible layers when deciding where to fill. If you have this turned off, your fill bucket might not work properly and fill in areas where you don't want it to. You can accomplish the same thing by setting your line art layer as a reference layer, but having this setting turned on in the fill bucket means you don't have to mess with setting up reference layers every single time. If you tend to leave gaps in your line art, you can check off close gap and it'll automatically fill in any holes. The higher you set it, the larger gaps this will work on. You might have to go back and adjust a little because this tool isn't flawless, but it's still way easier and faster than coloring everything manually.
Oh my god.
Now, two more helpful things for flatting. The remove dust tool and the adjust line width tool. My other best friends.
Hold up. I'm actually gonna steal this. Hold up. So we go into fill.
In the fill bucket means you don't have to mess with setting up reference layers every single time.
Yeah.
If you tend to leave gaps in your line art, you can check off close gap and it'll automatically fill in any hole.
Close gap. What? No way. Alright.
The higher you set it, the larger gaps this will work on. You might have to go back and adjust a little because this tool isn't flawless, but it's still way easier and faster than coloring everything manually. Now, two more helpful things for flatting. The remove dust tool and the adjust line width tool. My other best friends. Sometimes when you use the fill bucket to color, you'll end up with little nuggets of uncolored spaces and tight corners. And yes, you can manually go in and fill those yourself, but that's tedious and annoying, so let's make it faster and easier. For smaller stuff, I usually use the remove dust tool. Make sure to select the fill leftover option, set the dust size to maximum, set the mode to fill transparent gaps with surrounding color, and make the brush size nice and big. Once that's set up, I go to my flats layer and just swipe this brush over the entire canvas. It'll look for any unfilled areas between your flat colors and fill them in by grabbing the surrounding colors and filling in the gaps. Again, sometimes it may grab the wrong color and you'll have to go in and spot treat it, but it still saves a ton of time compared to doing all of it manually. Now, sometimes the unfilled areas are too big for the remove dust tool to fix, which is when we break out the big guns, the adjust line width tool. What I like to do for character flat is to turn off my background stuff, make a selection of all the negative space around my characters, then invert the selection so only my characters are selected. Grab the adjust line width tool, set it to thicken, crank it up to 11, turn off the line art layer, and go to town with this tool until the flats are completely filled in behind the line art. The selection means it won't go outside of your lines, and you can really quickly fill in all the gaps without having to think about it too much. If you've ever seen a weird green highlight effect happen during one of my speed paints, that's me using this tool. Again, sometimes the wrong color will end up slightly outside where it was supposed to go. You can go back and make adjustments manually afterwards. Easy peasy, and I just saved you hours of time. You're welcome. So, like I said, I do all my character flats on one layer. My background flats I break up a little more sometimes because my background tends to be a bit more painterly. Usually the sky is on its own layer, and I'll have a few layers of flats depending on the environment. I also organize my layers a bit at this point. I make a folder for my characters with their inking flats layers, and a folder for my backgrounds also with their own inks and flats. After all the flats are laid out, it's time for rendering. I usually do my background rendering first because it's like eating your vegetables before eating your dessert. I get the backgrounds out of the way first and then have fun with character shading. I mostly use multiply layers to add shadows and overlay or soft light layers to add highlights, but again, it tends to change depending on the lighting of the scene. I made a whole tutorial about my coloring and rendering process a while back, so I'll leave the link for that in the description. After the backgrounds are rendered, now it's time to do the characters. I use a single multiply layer for all the base cell shading, an overlay layer for highlights, another multiply layer for things like blush on the skin, and everything else changes depending on the lighting of the scene. I also usually put the white eye shines and their own layer on top of the line art. So once that's done, I have a fully rendered comic page. But okay, here's the thing. Some people are color savants, and by this point in the process, their pages will already look finished and beautiful. I am not one of those people. At this stage, my pages look a little weird at best and horribly jacked up at worst. So now comes my favorite part, the final render, aka attacking the page with an airbrush and effect layers until it looks nice. Again, this is the type of thing that gets changed every scene depending on the lighting, and will even change page to page depending on what the lighting calls for. But this final step is really where all the colors start to come together. I'll select one panel at a time, take the main light color of the scene, let's say a warm light yellow to represent sunlight, and just softly airbrush it over the scene where it looks like the light would be the strongest. Like with real spray painting, you want multiple low opacity strokes instead of one single heavy-handed stroke. I'll set this layer to overlay and just build up the light where I want it. Then I'll make a new layer for another color and do the same thing. I'll also add vignettes at this stage with the same technique, but using multiply layers instead. I'll also use adjustment layers like gradient map set to a low opacity, color balance, or a brightness contrast filter to tweak the colors and get them just right. This part is very much trial and error, but once I have it in a place I like it for one page, I can usually just repeat the settings over the rest of the pages in the scene. And again, sometimes I'll adjust things based on how the page looks once I'm done. It's hard to explain the thought process behind it, but to summarize, this is just the step where I do what comes naturally and try to mold the colors to the vibes I want for a page. It's very much freestyling at this step. Yay, art. After that, the page is done, which means it's time to export. And remember how I said that you should always draw your pages super duper big? Yeah, you don't actually want to post them online at full size. When you're posting your pages online, you'll want to shrink them down so they don't take a million years to load. Most comic platforms usually have a maximum width of about 900 pixels, and if you're posting on your own site, I wouldn't recommend going much over that. In Clip Studio, you can select export as a single layer and input how big you want the exported version of your page to be. Pick a spot to save the file in, and presto, it's done. One fresh comic page hot off the presses and ready for reading. In like 2 months, because I usually work on pages well before I actually post them. I hope you guys enjoyed the sneak peek of this page that most folks won't get to see for another month. And yeah, that's basically it. That's the full breakdown of how I make comics. If seeing this page made you interested in reading the rest of the comic, remember that you can read the entirety of my webcomic cast off for free at castoff-comic.com, links down in the description. And again, if you want to see me draw pages like this in real time, you can always stop by my weekly art streams. If you want even more webcomic tips and advice from yours truly, not only do I have a ton of other videos on the topic on my channel, I also wrote an entire book about it. Check out my book, How to Webcomic, the ultimate guide to making online comics, on my store now. It has tips and advice for drawing comics, as well as writing, marketing, where and how to post pages, and even how to monetize your work. I basically crammed everything I know about comics into this thing, so go check it out. Links down in the description. Lastly, if you want to start making comics yourself, I highly recommend trying out Clip Studio Paint. I really only scratched the surface of what this program can do in this video, and they've got a ton of resources, guides, and tutorials available to help you learn how to use the program to its fullest potential. I've been using it for years, and at this point, it's hard to imagine using anything else. And hey, if you want to test out the software and see if it's right for you, you can download a free trial of Clip Studio Paint from their website. Links in the description down below. And huge thanks again to Clip Studio Paint for sponsoring this video. And that about does it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope that it was helpful to my aspiring comic artists out there. Let me know in the comments what kind of comics you're working on. Make sure to subscribe if you want more videos like this in the future, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!
Very cool. So, no, that, oh man, I'm gonna be, we're gonna save this to, we're gonna save this for later. But if you guys are looking for this channel, this was the starfish face. Nice. Subscribe. Boom. We're gonna leave a comment live. Not exactly. What was thank you so much. That's not hard. Boom, did it. I kind of feel like since, I'm asking for LCS, I might as well do the same. Or at least, like, if I really do want to subscribe to them, walking the walk. But yeah, so let's take a look actually. It was saying not not this. Nope, nope, nope. What is it? Doing events? No, not that. Oh, here it is. Right there. But yeah. So if you really are interested in all of that, oh, there she is.
Hello, lovely art people. Grab your art tools of choice because it's time.
Bazinga. So there's that. Ooh. Wait, make myself bigger. Perfect. So yeah, let's take a look. Take a look. Um, I'm so I'm so used to reading a manga. I was gonna. Is it over? Did it? But and then it starts with Glasses Man. It worked. Wait, how do I read this? Right? Yeah, it's we're reading it left to right, right? It worked. Is it over? Did it? It worked. Oh, yeah, I'm I'm jumping into the. It's kind of sickly. It's actually kind of beautiful. Don't I think if you touch it, it'll go right back inside you. So, what do we do with it then? Oh, I see. It all makes sense now. Yes, I believe it all works out. So, but yeah, this is all for free, I guess. So, cast off new pages every Monday and Friday. Uh, that's the very first. Not gonna lie, I'm kind of very curious as to what page she was drawing because that was 7 months ago, and she said she did this 2 months in advance. So, chapter 100, chapter 12, page 28. So, they do it this way. Holy sweet Christmas, chapter. Oh, because chapter 11. Gotcha. So anyway, let's find it. Let's find the page. It looks like this, but not that. Oh, the reason why this is as it is because I actually can't see beyond a certain point. So honestly, though, if uh, um, hmm, well, that didn't work how I planned. Yeah, no, that didn't work as planned. Well, what if I just did? What if I did? If I did that? There. Cool. We did it. We fixed it. I am genius. It just works. Okay, so let's see. A bunch of blues, not enough green. We might be here. We might be here. Chapter 4, the inn. No? Am I just blind? Feels like it. Just watch. Like she changed the whole thing, so that's actually like after she did it, it's like, oh no, I gotta edit it. It looks different now. No. I'm gonna be like, no. So that's a bunch of blue. The wave. This is the island. I feel like we're away. So we got the trader. Oh, spoilers. Where do we go back? I feel like it was at the end. No, hold up. Are we? We got some greens. We're looking at green. We're back at green. No. No, we're moving away from green. Here it is. All my days. I am so... It was literally right here. I mean, you go back, and I was just wrong. It's right here. So, let's see. How to comic? So she was doing this last year. 7 months. It does a lot to you.
Have you ever wanted to...
Nope, we're not watching that. At least not yet. So yeah, that whole thing that she was doing, just right here. Sage, it's me. Hey, you home? Sage? Oh, that can't be good. That's really cool. You can see all of the stuff and all that work that goes into that. This is a low, as she said before, like there's not a lot of the word word bubbles. Not a lot of speaking, but it still takes a bunch of work to put everything together. So, Sage, you left the door unlocked again. Are you here? I'm coming in. Sage, wake up! Hey, wake up! There you go. Ah, there you are. You passed out on the floor again. Were you working on this? Ah, the spell. Is this what you were doing? Is this what you were doing? I thought you were done trying healing spells. I thought I had a breakthrough. And I did not. But yeah, you can go. Yeah, February. Page 4 back on. Oh wait, yeah. So December, they did this on December and January. So yeah, like a month in advance. So now we're back. Right, so January 5th, all the way July 19th. Yeah, cool. Well, there it is. What do they say? Like a new page? Yeah, new page every Monday and Friday. So, yeah, they're like a month or two ahead. I mean, it was December. Well, hold up. It was December when they posted it, right? So they were probably, you know, with editing and all of that stuff going on, they probably had that in September. So it's very cool. Very cool. And it's very nice. So in a world where I create my own content, uh I'd doing something like this. This is fun. I don't think I'll actually like if the stories that I were to make were to actually be a comic, I think I would just commission someone to write the comic, and I'll just have the story. I'll re-script it to be not in a novel, and just work it so that the artist can follow it to be page per page, and we'll just go from there. I don't think I'll actually make the comic. Like I said, I'd probably do illustrations at like a light novel, or yeah, like a light novel, and just have some plates that show off the characters, who they are, and then highlight some scenes that I deem are important. I mean, that's what highlighting is for. A bit redundant, but that's what I like to do. So nothing like this, but kudos to them. Like all the way back to page one. Wow, 2015, 10 years. Another thing, like that's been a theme. I probably should just change the title, but of this stream. But yeah, 10 essentially going on 10 years, right? April 7, 2015. Right? So think about it this way. Yeah, like Jaden Animations was only around for 1 year. Actually, no, not even a year. Not even a year old at this point when they started this venture. Wow, check that out. It's actually kind of interesting. Like, let's go back to the first, right? Let's go to the latest. So here's their art, and like there's style, and then there's right. I mean, there's not much here, but a couple silhouettes, things happen. Ooh, fancy. He's yelling. Oh wow! Did we just? Oh my god! Have we come full? Oh my god! I'm showing spoilers. Oh god. I mean, for me, I'm cool with that. So my bad. Oops. Um. Cut myself. But paper cut. But yeah, let's see. Chapter 1 title. Well, see, there we are. Yeah, see, you can see how the faces are drawn differently from that. So that's very cool. But yeah, so for anyone who's looking off, this is Cast Off. This is by Star Pritchard. So if you're interested, yeah, go check her stuff out. Here's her. Here it is. It's at castoff-comic.com. And it looks really cool. Looks very nice. I'll get back to this. Probably off stream. I mean, yeah, it'll be off stream. And take a look at all of this. But this looks very cool. But again, another more fuel for me to see how I want to do things. How I want to handle something or make something stand out. This is exactly what I wanted. And while I did say plates, I was thinking more, yeah, to do like an actual comic strip format and keep it as like one thing. So it's like you're reading, and then the next thing you see is like, oh, this is that scene that they were doing. So more along that. That's what I want to be doing. But yeah, so excellent. So what is this? What are you 1 year ago? Let's take a look at it. What are you, Lauvin? Lamon? How to create a comic for beginners, Clip Studio Paint. Okay, we got 18 minutes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to rock and roll. Get it done. Let's learn.
Create your own manga or comic? Just a few pages or a whole book worth? If so, you can probably imagine that it can be a lot of work. In this video, I will show you how you can create a page from start to finish using Clip Studio Paint, which includes a lot of tools to make the whole process as simple and fun as possible. But before we get into it, I want to thank Celsius, the makers of Clip Studio, for sponsoring this video. Probably the best fitting sponsor there is for a topic like this. If you haven't checked out Clip Studio Paint yet, you might want to give the free test version a try after watching this video. So, how are you even supposed to start a comic like this? First, we want to sketch out some rough panels as a storyboard. This can actually be quite fun because you can just let loose, make a bit of a mess, and play around with various ideas. Keeping everything simple and rough enables us to quickly decide how the panels will be arranged and what happens in them. This gives you an overview of the structure of the story, which is really useful the more pages your comic has. All of this will give you an idea of how the page will read and how the panels look next to each other. Because everything is still rough and you didn't invest a lot of time into a perfect drawing, it will be a lot easier to say, you know what, let me move something around or delete this panel entirely. The point is that you can avoid or fix a lot of mistakes before it's too late. But how do you know where to begin? Personally, I often like to write the rough dialogue of a scene first and go from there. But sometimes I also just like to start with a sketch, having only a rough idea of the text and scene in mind. Then I let it play out in front of me as I draw it, almost like directing actors and seeing where you end up. And if I get more ideas by looking at the sketches, I can include them without hesitation. In this example, I'm imagining a comic with 2 pages side by side. So I divided the canvas into 2 pages and added some rough panels in various shapes to them. Typically 4 to 6 panels a page are enough. But I've heard people recommend sticking to 8 panels or fewer per page, so everything stays clear, organized, and easy to read. That's not a hard and fast rule though. I recommend looking at your favorite manga for references regarding the layout. Also, whether your panels are straight or more diagonal and dynamic can really support the visual impact of a scene. These things are difficult to visualize in your head at the beginning though, and come with experience. As you'll see in a bit, Clip Studio Paint will make it easy to change things like panels at a later stage of the process. But obviously, it's a good idea to get as close as possible as early as possible. The important thing here is to only put down enough on the page to get your idea across and not to get lost in details. Depending on the scene, this could mean certain movements like in a fighting scene for example, a wide shot of a location, or a close-up of an important object. I like to add facial expressions and some hair to the figures too, just so I can distinguish between the interacting characters. Also, I already draw rough backgrounds, so the perspective and positions of the characters is more obvious when I come back to work with these sketches later on. To add variety, I like to switch between close-ups and wide shots, and some atmospheric panels every once in a while. It might sound like a cheap trick to spare yourself from drawing more difficult panels, but showing something like a cup of coffee in a scene where people drink coffee actually helps with pacing and establishing the location and vibe of a scene. Always gather inspiration from movies, games, or other manga if you don't really know how to fill your panels. Take note of how often they show something other than the characters of the scene. Another big advantage of working with a storyboard is that we can already look for spots to place the text balloons. Working digitally means you can change their size, shape, and position anytime you want, but nevertheless it's good to factor them into your storyboard, because their position will affect the way people will read the comic, but also because they will probably cover something up that you won't have to draw in the first place. Creating a storyboard can be quite a time-consuming task, as a lot of the groundwork is done here. You have to plan a lot and make so many choices before actually drawing the page, but it will make the process of creating a comic or manga much easier once you are certain what direction your story is going to go and what the pages should look like. So with that out of the way, we can finally dive into the comic tools included in Clip Studio Paint. First up, we need to open a new document for the manga project. Go to File, New, and click on the comic page icon to see a whole bunch of...
Oh. Well, how about that, huh? It literally is that easy, huh? Literally that easy, huh? Wow. It it really is. Yeah, you have comic, and then you have printing to fanzine. Don't know what that is. And then show all comic setting. Oh my god. Oh, this is so cool. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have fun with this. So, but yeah, let's continue.
Of new options. For now, I'll just call this project.
So, hear me out. So one of the things that, because I'm actually going to essentially be rewriting the intro, because one of the things that, at least when I tell a story, I've had it ingrained that every, due to how I was raised, when you tell your story, that you have to have all the details. That you have to have all the details said. F. Scott Fitzgerald style. You're just looking at the drapes, and then the next thing you know, you're in like 10 metaphors deep, and you're already like drowning in simile. And you really just want to get away from the dining room, truly. And while works for him, not for me. One of the things that I do need to do is, pick it up. Pacing is one of the things that I needed to do, but also making sure that the writing that I have is enough, has enough information to be worthwhile of writing. Because again, it's kind of like the training montage, right? Like, what are you gonna do? He punched the bag multiple times Monday, and then on Tuesday he punched the bag, more multiple times. Like, we did it, right? So I need to make sure that what I am showing is worthwhile to be shown, and that's why I'm rewriting. Because again, this was something that I've had in my head for years, since I was a teenager. And finally, getting it all together to eventually push it to do something like really fun, and get it out in the world. That's something that I'd like to do. And so we'll keep going. So we'll see how he does it.
Based on your planning earlier, we can now customize the pages, starting with their size. You can set it freely or choose standard sizes like A4 and A5. Also, you can adjust the width of the bleed and resolution. All of these options are especially relevant if you plan to get your work printed. Another choice to make here is whether the project will be in color or black and white. While you can change this later, it's usually a good idea to settle on one or the other before you begin. Just know that if you choose monochromatic, even gray tones won't be available while drawing. This is where you would use things like screen tones to convey different shades of gray. But this also means you cannot really use transparent brushes, because the gray tones won't be displayed as they normally would. That's why I typically pick the colors option. If you are planning to get your comic printed, you might not have a choice though. Perhaps you also just like the monochromatic look, even if your comic will only be published on the web. Next, we want to check the box for multiple pages. For this example, I start with 4 pages. Once everything is set up, we can click OK, and we are ready to go. Here on the left, you can see the 4 pages. You can click through them and open each one individually. And you can add more pages by right-clicking as your story grows. Of course, you can also just work with single pages in individual files and organize them into folders. With the layout of the storyboard as our guide, we can start filling the actual page with panels. Creating panels is super easy with the panel tool. Click on this icon and select Create Panel. In the menu, I pick the color for the panel's border and a brush size that will define its thickness. But like many things, you can always change these later. The way I like to work with the panel tool is to start with a large panel across the entire page like this. Next, I'll divide it into smaller panels. But before I do that, let's take a quick look at what the tool has created for us. We get a folder with a layer mask that has the shape of the large panel. Inside the folder are 2 layers. One is the background color of the panel that you can imagine as a piece of paper lying underneath. You won't have to interact with this layer most of the time. The other one is a clear layer that we can use for a sketch or liner. Everything on these layers inside the folder will stay inside the boundaries of the panel defined by the layer mask. So if I draw some lines on either of them, they won't go beyond the panel. For comparison, if I draw on a layer underneath the folder, the background layer will block anything underneath the panel. So in other words, Clip Studio has magically done all the work for us. Of course, you can add more layers inside the folder. For example, one for each character in the scene, but more on that later. One large panel is a bit boring, and it also doesn't really fit the storyboard we made. So let's divide it into smaller ones. For that, I select the option next to the Create Panel tool, which is called Frame Border, and then Divide Frame Folder. This works similar to a ruler tool. You click on one point on your canvas and drag the line around. When you click again, it divides your panel into 2 pieces. After applying it to our big panel, we can see that we now have 2 folders, one for each panel. And once again, Clip Studio has taken care of divide your panel into two and then divide frame folder. This works, so let's divide it into smaller ones. For that, I select the option next to the create panel tool, which is called frame border, and then divide frame folder. This works similar to a ruler tool. You click on one point on your canvas and drag the line around. When you click again, it divides your panel into two pieces. After applying it to our big panel, we can see that we now have two folders, one for each panel. And once again, Clip Studio has taken care of setting all of this up with just a few clicks. I repeat this a few more times to reveal the layout for the page according to my storyboard. The method that I've shown here creates individual panels that are separate from one another. In comparison, you can also divide a panel such that you get a border between them, but they share the same folder and possibly even layers. Why would you do that? Sometimes you just want that border to support the composition of the panels. This way you can work on one layer that goes across both panels. The tool for doing this is called Divide Frame Border Tool. An immense advantage that these panels have is that you can adjust their size and shape retroactively. Let's say, for example, that a panel turned out too small, or you want to give it an angle. Then you can simply select the operation menu again and click on the panel to reveal the backup points. From there, you just move the point where you need it, and it will adjust that change to the other panel next to it. Now that we've created the layout, we can start working on what's inside of them. To start, I like to copy and paste the storyboard sketches into them and start refining them. Since we are using Clip Studio, a great way to do that is using 3D models. This is optional, of course, and if you feel like that interrupts your workflow, you can skip this step. But it can be of massive help, especially when it comes to tricky panels with massive crowds or complicated backgrounds and perspectives. Using my thumbnail sketches as a reference, I pick a pose from the 3D models, we can start working on what's inside of them. To start, I like to copy and paste the storyboard sketches into them and start refining them. Since we are using Clip Studio, a great way to do that is using 3D models. This is optional, of course, and if you feel like that interrupts your workflow, you can skip this step. But it can be of massive help, especially when it comes to tricky panels with massive crowds or complicated backgrounds and perspectives. Using my thumbnail sketches as a reference, I pick a pose from the 3D figure folder and drag it onto my panel. Then I adjust it to match the reference a bit more. If you want to know more about how to work with poses, I did a video going into full detail on how you can work with 3D models. It's linked up there in the corner and in the video description. As we saw earlier, the folder of each panel has a layer mask that makes everything outside the panel invisible. This is really useful to work on the composition of the panel before we have even started drawing. You can turn off the mask if you need to see more of the models in order to adjust them. After adding the second character, you might already see where the strength of using the models lies. It's not just helpful with anatomy, but also to precisely determine the distance between the figures and therefore estimate the correct size for this perspective. After all, the character who's further away should appear a bit smaller. Same goes for the background. Clip Studio has some great pre-made models of backgrounds for classrooms, parks, and stuff like that, but there are also primitive shapes like cubes and planes that we can use to build rough guides for our own purposes. For example, in this thumbnail, I have the two characters walking through a hallway. It can be quite difficult to figure out the right perspective, so the walls and the door actually fit the size of the characters. For the mock-up background, I take planes from the 3D model folder and place them accordingly. You can rotate them, change their size, and stretch them. Just click on the plane and drag it along the different options until you're satisfied. The results will be pretty simple, but you get a rough understanding of the perspective you're going to use, which brings me to the next helpful tool, the perspective ruler. Another way to establish perspective in a scene is using a ruler. Go to Layers, New Ruler, and then select the amount of vanishing points you want to work with. Central and 2 points are easy to read, and maybe you have come across these in school already. With one vanishing point in the center, you can draw a room, for example, by using horizontal and vertical lines to create the single surfaces.
I have been... So this will save me so much time. I can't begin to tell you. Trying to find and do this properly. Oh my god. All right. Well, cool. I'll be saving this one too. So it's all about learning today, baby. I mean, well, every day is learning. But you know what I mean. Next.
The 2-point perspective is similar, although the other point enables us to draw the box from a different angle. For dynamic frog and bird perspectives, the 3-point perspective ruler is essential, though it is a bit more complicated. When you create a 3-point perspective, you get a layer with a blue line for the horizon, and for each of the 3 vanishing points, there are lines forming a triangle. Each of the lines has a white dot in the center and 2 smaller blue dots next to them. If you drag the line using the white dot, the vanishing point stays fixed, and if you use the blue ones, you will move the vanishing point accordingly, changing the perspective. As a little exercise, you can recreate the perspective of a reference photo. Simply drag the guidelines along some of the lines you can identify in your photo. Once those are set, you can start drawing lines either by tracing the photo, or you can create a fully new drawing that has the same perspective of the photo. It will take a bit to learn how to properly set up such a ruler, but thankfully there's a super neat shortcut here. If you have used 3D models and objects for the scene earlier, Clip Studio has already created such a ruler for you. You might have already noticed this little ruler symbol on the folder. Click it and the ruler becomes visible. It is already adjusted to the perspective that is used in the 3D scene, requiring no fiddling around with any of the vanishing points. If I change the perspective by dragging the camera button, the ruler changes along with it. This actually is a great way to learn how the ruler works, as changing the 3D scene automatically updates the ruler and you can see how the vanishing points change in real time. Similarly, check out how the perspective shifts if I drag the blue dot of the ruler. You can also tilt the horizon with the roll option, or create a more distorted perspective using the perspective parameter, and the ruler will follow along with it. With the characters and backgrounds done, we can now focus on adding the speech bubbles, speedlines, and screen tones. Since dialogue is usually an important part of most comics, let's take a closer look at the tools Clip Studio gives us for creating them. First up, we can of course simply take a pen of our choice, draw the balloons ourselves, and then fill them with white color using the bucket. Overall though, these speech balloons tend to look shaky, and if you scale or transform them, the lines eventually get blurry, so it's not the most effective way to add text to your comic. The better option is to use the fittingly named balloon tools, which you can find in the tool palette. Here you can select between the rounded, ellipse, and curved balloons. The ellipse and rounded balloons have their own shapes that transform and scale by dragging them accordingly. The curved balloon tool is used by creating single points by clicking on your canvas and connecting these points to end up with the shape that we need. Then there's the balloon pen that lets you simply draw the speech balloon. There are also tools for creating specific kinds of balloon tails, though I personally prefer to use the pen for them. What all of these tools have in common is that they are using vectors, meaning you can always change the control points and lines or scale them without losing quality. Using the operation menu, you can adjust the typical properties like the line thickness and color. In case the balloon looks too wobbly, you can also simplify it by using the simplify vector line tool that you can find in the correct line menu. Just paint over the area you want to simplify and it will remove some anchor points and smoothen the line. Then you can change the thickness of the lines by using the adjust line width tool. It might seem like a small detail at first, but playing around with the thickness of the speech balloons can really change the vibe. For example, an irregular line strength can give them more of a traditional hand-drawn look. Finally, let's add a few more decorations. To add speed lines, you can go to the focus line tool. Just like with the speech balloons, these tools use anchor points, so you can adjust the speed lines however you like. For example, with a certain distance to your subject or following a specific shape. Then tweak the amount of lines, the thickness, or distribution. Lastly, I can always recommend browsing the asset section of Clip Studio. For everything I've talked about, you can find pre-made examples that are free to use. Layouts for pages, speech balloons, and speed lines. And of course, if they come in the form of vector layers, you can still adjust them to your needs. We are nearly done. What's missing now is some shading. Keeping in mind that there are a few more pages to be done, I aim for something simple. I start by creating a color palette with the tones for my characters, as well as anything that needs to have a consistent color scheme. You can sort and save palette of your characters to have them in hand whenever you need. Next, I pick the magic wand tool to create selections and fill them with color. Then I add some soft and hard shadows using the airbrush and G-pen respectively. A great way to get quick and consistent coloring is using gradient map layers. I have talked about them in a previous video, but for a comic, they're useful to create atmospheric light situations like sunsets or night times. Check out the video in the top right or in the video description. First, create a gradient of your liking, and then go to Layer, Correction Layer, Gradient Map, to then pick the gradient and glaze your colors with them. If necessary, change the opacity and play around with the layer modes to achieve the best result for your purpose. In case you want to go for a more classic manga look, or if you chose monochromatic when setting up the page, you can shade your page using screen tones. To do so, choose the screen tone effect in the layer property section. Click on the screen tone symbol and choose the size and shape of the dots. You can change these settings and turn the filter on and off again at any point. In case you're planning to send your comic to print, this is incredibly useful to prevent the moire effect. Traditionally, to add highlights to screen tones, artists would use a cutter knife to scratch specks off the printed foil and achieve a distinctive look. To emulate that with our digital drawing, we can create a layer mask. Then with a crosshatch brush that has the eraser mode activated, we can create little highlights like this. And there it is, one page of a comic from start to finish. Now on to the next 100 pages. So what will your first comic be about? Or have you already created one before? If you want to know more tips or want me to cover some more techniques, let me know in the comments. And check out my other videos on digital art, especially the tutorials, to learn more techniques and get inspired. Also follow me on Instagram and Twitter for more regular art. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time.
Very cool. So I don't really know what to say much more on that. It's pretty much like a how-to. It is a how-to. And truly, that's going to be something that I'll have to pick up for the foreseeable future. So I'm quite excited for that. And yeah, you know, I'm looking at the time, looking at what, because I do have places to go, and this was fun. This was fun doing some reactions, watching some videos, doing something different, right? And not just, you know, having the amateur art piece just one note. And yeah, so on that note, actually I'll cut it for now, because I do want to be able to get ready. I do have to go out and go places, believe it or not. And yeah, so I won't keep you any further. So if you all LCS down below, I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, I'd like to hear what you say, what you want to say. And with that, I won't keep you any longer. So thank you so much for joining me. You all have a great day. I wish you well, and I wish you love. You all take care. Bye. Oh wait, maybe I should do boom. There we go. Now we go back to, we're back at the library, and that's how I should end it. Ooh, and then I can fly around. Good times. But yes, so again, now for reals, LCS down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I don't want to take up any more of your time. So with that, on that note, I wish you well. I wish you love. You take care.